So let us start. So today we are going to start with our last chapter, and that is a very special class of amplifiers, that is power amplifiers. Now let me draw few blocks first, or block diagrams, to actually put more meaning into what power amplifier is all about. So let us see this one particular block diagram. If we look at a power amplifier as a block, or any amplifier as a block, so let us say that we are having a small block of amplifier, and when we say the word amplifier, obviously it has got some gain. It has got some gain. Okay. Now let us see that the gain of this block is 10,000. Just for value sake, okay, the gain is 10,000. The input is 1 millivolt. The input is 1 millivolt, and the current level is 1 milliamp. The current level is 1 milliamp. So what generally happens is that the first stage is called as a voltage amplifier. Now when it comes to power is equal to V into I. Simple, very simple definition of power. So we can say when we boost both voltage and current, when we boost both voltage and current, we will say we get power amplification. We get some kind of power amplification. What we have been doing till now is we have been focusing on voltage. We have not been focusing much on the current content of the signal. So what a voltage amplifier will do is something like this. Just see here. This gain 10,000 gets multiplied by 1 millivolt, and 1 millivolt into 10,000 will be 10 volts. So it amplifies the voltage, but it keeps the current the same. Now we want to amplify, so voltage amplification has happened, but to boost power, we also need to boost the current value, and that is why we require another special class of amplifier, which is basically a current amplifier. And a current amplifier is generally called as power amplifier. So here now 10 volts. So power amplifier also amplifies the voltage some number of times, but it amplifies current more as compared to voltage. So for example, if the gain, that is, let's say AV, is 1.5, then AI, that is the current gain, would be something like 1000. So what it means is that the more preference is given to current as compared to that of voltage. So at the output of this block, what you will get here is, maybe here you will get 15 volts, and here the current get amplified 1000 times, that is becomes 1 amp. So you can see that the input power, that the P input, so what was the input power? Let's say 1 millivolt into 1 milliampere. So that is 1 into 10 raised to minus 3 into 1 into 10 raised to minus 3. So that will be 10 raised to minus 6 watts, or I will say 1 microwatt. Is 1 microwatt. But if you look at P out, this will be 15, voltage is 15 and current is 1. So that is going to be 15 watts. Okay, so you can see that there is a boost in the power 15 million times. So that is something what we want to do. That is what a power amplifier is supposed to do. That it is supposed to boost the power, and only boosting the voltage is not sufficient to boost the power. So if you just consider here, if you just look at this thing here at this point, the power here would be 10 into 1 into 10 raised to minus 3, which would be just 10 milliwatts. So this kind of 10 milliwatts power is also not sufficient to drive the speakers. We require the power to be in 15 in the range of watts, because most of the speakers or these audio devices, so if you look at a speaker, or if you typically look at a computer speaker, we're in the range of 2 watts, or so this is the range actually, 2 to 50 watts, and the input impedance is around 2 ohms to something like 100 ohms. So huge speakers will have huge output resistance, input resistance, and they may fall in this particular category. So when you say I have a 50 watt speaker, from where will this 50 watt come? Who will give me this 50 watt? Only voltage amplification will not be sufficient to get this 50 watts. I will have to use one more amplifier which boosts the current. So voltage got boosted in the first stage and current got boosted in the second stage. So this kind of the second stage is basically our topic of interest, because voltage amplifiers we have seen through many other chapters. So this only focuses on how to boost the current. So I want you all to like copy down this thing. This is the basic of power amplifiers. I will wait 2 minutes here so that you can write this down. In the meantime, if there are any small questions, you can ask. So here the power amplifier is designed to deliver large amount of power to the loads, which may be some kind of a loudspeaker or a physical load. So basically it is used to deliver large amount of power. Power amplifier is often the output stage of the amplifying system. That means after this stage, we directly connect the load. Load as in it can be a fan, it can be a speaker, it can be anything. Fan is very unusual for this system, but load could be speaker or something. The main components of a power amplifier. So what is there inside this power amplifier so that it gives such a high current value at the output. So the main component of a power amplifier is a power transistor. Now, how is this power transistor different from a normal transistor? So as you can see that the output is having lot of current and voltage, and it is going to result in a large generation of power. So the power transistor has a large surface area and the body is made up of metal so that the power dissipation can be carried out very easily to the surroundings. So okay, no problem, there will be lot of power, but when we say more power, it automatically implies more heat. And if and we all know that if heat is allowed to stay in the same place, then it will accumulate over a period of time, causing a large increase in temperature and which may cause device failure. So that is why these power transistors are special transistors which are having a large surface area and body made up of metal. So I'll just put it down that the heart of the power amplifier is a power transistor. And what is so special about this transistor is that it has got large surface area. Large surface area means how? So generally what they'll do is they will use a heat sink. Use a heat sink. So the transistor is connected to a heat sink, and then the body is also made up of metal. Because you know that metal can conduct heat, and it can facilitate the transfer of heat from one place to another. So how does heat travel? Can anybody tell me how does heat travel from one place to another? It's a very basic question, somewhere from your school or junior college physics. How does heat travel from one place to another? So the problem is that things are going to heat up and we cannot allow that. So how to transfer the heat from one place to another? Can anybody tell me method by which heat travels from one place to another? Yes, I'm waiting for somebody to unmute. Go
So
ahead.
heat travels through air as well as some conducting material.
Okay, okay, you are partially correct. Yes, anybody else wants to try? Okay, I mean power transistor you make, but as an engineer you should know once you start using this power transistor, what are the problems that you will face and how to get rid of those problems. So the first thing that you will encounter is heat. So how to get rid of heat? Use heat sinks. Okay. So this heat is going to be a problem, and I will just list down the ways in which heat travels. So as far as heat is concerned, heat, I'll write it down here. Heat travels through, first one is conduction, through the mode of conduction. So Mandar, one of your answer is right. The second thing that you said is that it travels through air. So I will call it as conduction. Then it is called as what? Convection. And what is the third?
So probably radiation.
Correct. So that is called as radiation. Convection and radiation. So now as an engineer you should think, okay, this is, if heat is generated, then how is how is it that we can now get it out? There are three ways: conduction, convection and radiation. So people have studied and they said that okay, conduction, we can remove the heat by conduction. So how to conduct? So that is use heat sinks. So I'll write here, I'll connect something metallic to the transistor where the heat is getting created, and I will take it from there to some other place. So that is called as use of heat sinks. Okay, now you take out the heat from there. Let us say that you are at point A and now you put some metal and you took the heat from point A to B. So comparatively this will be cooler as compared to point B. But now point B is also getting heated, because like energy, even heat cannot create it or destroy it. It's a form of energy. So how will you now take care of point B? You will allow it to burn away? What will you do? So there we will use the second method of dissipating the heat, that is called as convection. And convection can be, so we use of fans, or I will say cooling systems, or cooling systems. So this, in the car also this is used. The engine heats up, so there is a coolant which flows through the engine, so it takes out the heat, and this coolant now moves through the radiator, and on top of the radiator there is a fan. So the heat is being conducted and through a fluid, and then it is cooled in the radiator with the help of a fan. So this is the most common way of removing the heat from where it is generated, that is through conduction and convection. Radiation is not very much seen, so it is basically related to something, heat generated due to high frequency signals. So here that is not going to be the case, because we are going to talk about audio signals. But yes, this is also a way of removal of heat. Now the most common ones are use of heat sinks and use of fans or cooling systems. So if you even open up your CPU, you can see that on top of the processor there is a heat sink, and the heat, on top of the heat sink there is a fan. So the processor passes its heat from itself to the heat sink, and from heat sink it is removed out with the help of the fan. And then this process continues and the fan dissipates the heat in the air. So this is how, this is important as far as power amplifier is concerned, that is generation of heat. So the content or the amount of power in the signal is increased by amplifying voltage content by lesser extent, but current content by a greater extent. So generally, to drive a power amplifier, we also require a voltage amplifier. To drive a power amplifier, it has to be preceded by a voltage amplifier. Otherwise, the story will be the same, that voltage is 1 millivolt and only current is amplifying. So 1 millivolt into 1 ampere will again be 1 milliwatt only. So we will again not get any increase in the power. So they have to work together, but they both together are not called power amplifier. The current amplifier is called as the power amplifier. So the power amplifier will increase current sourcing or sinking capability. So what is this current sourcing and sinking capability? Can anybody tell me? Can anybody tell me? Now, I have generated more power, I have boosted the current, but what is the use of this? So, I will tell you what is the use of this. Let us say that we have an op-amp chip. Op-amp is something called as an operational amplifier. Okay, so it is basically divided into 4 parts. And the last part of the amplifier is a power amplifier. Now what this power amplifier is doing is it is boosting the current. So when you boost the current, if you are having a chip where you are giving some input and you are getting an output, here you are getting some current, let us say I. Now if you want to give this same output to more than one chip, if you want to give this to more than one chip, then what will happen is that the current will distribute. So here let us say that if the chips are of the same type, here we will get I by 4, here we will get another I by 4, I by 4, and here also we will get I by 4. So the total current that I have to supply here is I. That means if I want to connect, if I want to source more current to more chips, then I must use a power amplifier. I must use a power amplifier. So basically, the power amplifier also increases the fan out of the chip. So this particular diagram actually is also the diagram for fan out. So what we are trying to do is we are trying to increase the fan out of the chip, and that is, and what will happen because of that is that the sourcing and sinking capability will increase because of the use of power amplifier, because of the use of power amplifiers. Now to throw more light, because you might feel that okay, this is still the same thing, so what we'll do is we'll just have a small differentiate kind of a thing, where I will write here on one side, here we will write small signal amplifier, okay, and here we will write large signal amplifier. So basically this is a small signal amplifier is generally a voltage amplifier, and a large signal amplifier is a power amplifier. Okay, so in the exam also there is a very famous question that differentiate between a voltage amplifier and a power amplifier. So the most distinguishing point is that the voltage amplifier amplifies only input voltage and The power amplifier amplifies both voltage and current. Both voltage and current. The second point could be that since it is you can see here small signal, that means magnitude of input voltage is small. It is somewhere in millivolts, and here the magnitude of input voltage or input signal, I will say, can be large. Why I am using the word signal? Because here we are dealing with both voltage and current. Input signal is large. Obviously, why it would be large? Because it is the input to a power amplifier is the output of a voltage amplifier. So we have already boosted the signal by some amount, but now we are going to boost it more. So here basically voltage amplifier is known as a small signal amplifier because it accepts very weak signal, something in milliwatts, and here it accepts something in volts also. So that is why it is called as a large signal amplifier. So here the typical application of voltage is, the output of a microphone. I am talking to you right now. So my voice is going into a microphone and then it is going to my computer where there is some A to D converter which has got an inbuilt op-amp to amplify my voice, and then it is getting digitized coming over to you, and through your speaker my output is coming out. So I might be speaking in small voice, but you can take it to the level that you want by increasing the volume at your end. And what are you doing by increasing the volume? You are supplying more power or increasing the current gain of your amplifier, and that is how you can hear my voice loudly. So here basically we can see that the we can have a voltage amplifier. So output of microphone can be input to this amplifier, and this amplifier is generally used in the last stage of audio amplification systems. So audio amplification system is also basically a speaker. So here you need to also talk about, like we discussed, transistor used has small power handling capacity. So that is why when we designed our amplifiers, we never spoke about how much power dissipation and all. We said, okay, whatever it is, it's fine. But here we have to comment on power. So power amplifiers are, so transistors used have high power handling capacity. Have high power handling capacity. Then another point would be, okay, some distortions are present. Distor distortions can be present in both voltage amplifier as well as power amplifier. So I'm not writing it as a differentiating point. Here, since we have small power, no heat sink is required. And this is a very important thing because heat sink might be 10 times in price as compared to the transistor. So here heat sink is a must. Is a must. Without heat sink you can't work here. Now here you have improved the current, and that is the reason why here we will say that efficiency is low. Efficiency is low, and here efficiency is high. Here efficiency is low because most of the power is used to stabilize the performance than to actually pass it on to the output. That is why the efficiency is low. As far as small signal transistors are concerned, we used to always say that Q point of the amplifier or the bias circuit, Q point should be at the center of the DC load line. This was our main point, should be at the center of the DC load line. But here Q point can be anywhere on the DC load line. On the DC load line. And depending on where the Q point is, it gives rise to a class of power amplifiers. So we call it as class A, then we call it as class B. So if it is at the center, we call it as class A. If it is somewhere else, we say class B. Then we have class C, and then we have a combination of this, that is class AB. And then we also have class D, but not very much important as far as this discussion is concerned. But yes, depending upon where the Q point is, it gives rise to the different class of amplifiers. Now, let's say the 8th point. Here, beta values of transistors used are very high, and here beta values are comparatively lower. So if you want to choose a power transistor, it will have a very high rating, but it will have a very low value of beta. Beta values are comparatively lower. And the last point is, or rather second last point, output impedance R0 is high, and here R0 is naturally low. R0 is low, and since it is low, my loads also have low output impedance, so matching becomes easy. So because of this, R0 is low, matching impedance becomes easy. matching the impedance becomes easy. Matching impedance with load becomes easy. And this is why matching of impedance is important for maximum power transfer from the amplifier to the load. So you have generated a lot of power, but unless the impedance is matched, there cannot be a transfer of power from one stage to another. So to satisfy maximum power transfer theorem, power amplifiers have R0, which is naturally low, and that is the reason why it becomes easier for us to match impedance with the loads, thus giving us very good output powers. And the last point is, I think it is the 10th point. Here we have low current sourcing and sinking capacity, and here you have high current sourcing and sinking capacity. So these are the 10 key points of between a small signal amplifier and a large signal amplifier. If you want to note it down, I'll give you 2 or 3 minutes to take it down. And in the meantime, if there are any more questions, please ask. I hope I am able to give you how power amplifiers are going to be different than the normal amplifiers. Of course, when you see some circuits, things will be more clear. But yes, please take 2 minutes to just note this down. Okay, I will just go a little bit down. So now what we are going to discuss is the different class of power amplifier. So power amplifier study is all about what are the different class of amplifiers. let us go ahead. Now, the different types of amplifiers are class A. So the types of power amplifiers. Types of power amplifiers. So the types, these types are mainly dependent on, these types of amplifiers depends on the amount of output signal variation over one full cycle of the input signal. So we'll just see that what it actually means. So the types first is class A, then we have class B, then we have class C, then we have class AB, or I'll say class D, I'll write it first, and then a combination of these two is class E. So that's the basically the fifth type. So there are 5 different types of power amplifiers used for different applications, and this is the fifth type. Now, as far as class A operation is concerned, as far as class A power amplifier operation is concerned, so I'll just write it down here, class A. Here, when it comes to class A, let us say that we are having a signal level. Okay, this is my 0 signal level. This is 0, and at the top you are having a, so no signal can go above VCC. So I'll call it as power supply. So your signal varies somewhere between power supply and the ground. The signal varies somewhere between the power supply and the ground. So we can just draw the diagram in this way. We can just draw it in a proper way. So we have a signal which is having maximum and minimum levels between VCC and ground. Okay, at this point, this is basically the DC bias level. This is basically the DC bias level. So you can see here that the output is present. Output is present for entire 360 degrees, or for the entire cycle of the signal. So as far as class A amplifier is concerned, the output signal varies for a full 360 degrees of the cycle. This requires the Q point to be biased at a level so that at least half the signal swing of the output may vary up and down without going to a high enough voltage to be limited by the supply voltage level, or too low to approach the lower power supply level, that is 0 volts. So that is the reason why, as far as class A amplifier is concerned, the Q point has to be at the center of DC load line. Only when Q point is at the center of the DC load line, we can have a full voltage swing of the signal. So this kind of operation is called as class A operation. It is called as class A operation, where you are operating the amplifier over entire 360 degrees of the signal. So naturally class B is something similar. So class B means now we are operating only over a half cycle of the signal. We are operating the amplifier not for complete 360 degrees, but we are operating it only for half the time. Half the time means here my output is going to be this way. So this is my 0. Again, any amplifier output must vary between two levels. One is the 0, that is the ground, and the other one is the power supply. So I always show that on the, so here this is V0, here also I'll write this is my output V0, and now if my signal operates in this fashion, please note this, if it is operating only over one half cycle, like this, for the second half cycle output is 0, then this is called as class B operation. Then this is called as class B operation. Now in BEE, you have already learned how to calculate P average of this kind of a signal and how to calculate P average of this kind of a signal. Forget the formula, what the formula is, but definitely the P average of this B is going to be less than P average of E. So what they do is, instead of using one class B amplifiers, they use two class B amplifiers. So a class B circuit provides an output signal varying over one half cycle of the input signal. Here, what is the DC bias level? The DC bias level is 0. This is going to be DC bias level, and the DC bias level is 0. So class B circuit provides output signal varying over one half of the input signal cycle or 180 degrees of the signal. The DC bias for class B amplifier, like I told you, is going to be 0. The output is not a faithful reproduction of the input signal. That means if you give input as sine, I am expecting sinusoidal output only at the output. But this is not sinusoidal, this is half sinusoidal. So that is why this is class B. So that is why we have to go for two class B amplifiers. That is why we say two class B circuits can be used to provide output on the positive output half cycle and other to provide operation on the negative output half cycle. The combined half cycles then provide an output for a full 360 degree operation. This type of connection is referred to as push-pull operation. This kind of signal operation is referred to as push-pull operation. That means one power supply, we will use two power supplies. One will have positive VCC, another one will have a negative VCC. So this is 0, and here we are having a negative VCC. So if we call this positive as push, here we are pushing it above 0 in the first case, and in the second case we are pulling it below 0, and that is why this operation is called as push pull. So if we use these two circuits together with the help of a dual power supply, we can achieve something called as push pull operation, and that is why we go for class B kind of amplifiers. Then we have class AB. So an amplifier may be biased. So now we said that it is sometimes the bias point is at a very high level, sometimes the bias point is 0 only. Now what if it is close to 0, and what if it is very high? So class AB amplifier says that okay, you can have a bias level which is between the bias level of class A and the bias level of class B, and that gives rise to another class of power amplifiers, that is class AB. So again I am repeating, the bias level in class A is high, the bias level in class B is 0. So they say that what if I want something in between? So that is what they go for is class AB. That is basically the class AB amplifier has a bias level which is between 0 and the level of class A. So an amplifier may be biased at a DC level above the 0 base current level of class B and above 1/2 the supply voltage of class A. This bias condition is called as class AB kind of amplifier. Class AB operation still requires, so class AB is not alone, it cannot operate alone, it also requires a push-pull connection to achieve a full output cycle swing. But the DC bias level, again I am saying, but the DC bias level is usually closer to the 0 base current level for better efficiency. Now class C we don't use directly. The output of a class C amplifier is biased for operation at less than 180 degrees of the cycle and will operate only with a tuned circuit. So you must have seen class C amplifiers, I think in PCOM, especially when you do some kind of when you use a tank circuit. So generally a class C amplifier is used with a tank circuit, and class D operation is used for amplifiers which are based on pulses. So that is class D. So if you want to like summarize this thing, then I will just make a small table here. We will write the class of the amplifier, and then we will write efficiency, and then we will write operation interval. Operation interval. So let's write it in this way. Circuits we will see probably in next class, but we have class A, then we have class, let's say AB, then we have class B, then we have class C, and then we have class B. So as far as class A is concerned, the operating interval is 360 degrees. It operates over full cycle. Here the operating interval is 180 degrees to 360 degrees. For this it is strictly 180 degrees. For class C it is less than 180 degrees. So this is 180 and 360. This is less than 180. And here this is between one between 90 and 180 degrees. Between 90 degrees and 180 degrees. As far as efficiencies are concerned, this has got just 25% efficiency, but it is very stable, class A. Here the efficiency is somewhere between 50 to 78.5, and this 78.5 I will derive in class. I will derive this. So I will just say this between 25 and 78.5. So typically this is around 50%. So I'll just write it here, typically 50. This is 78.5. And so naturally, when I say 25, I have to derive this. When I say 78.5, I will derive this. And with the help of A and B, I will give you an essence of how the efficiency can be between 25 and 78.5. As far as class C is concerned, we do not use class C amplifiers for delivering large powers to load. So here we don't have any, we do not describe class C in terms of efficiency, and as far as this is concerned, the efficiency is around 90% class, and it's impulse operation. So you can find this similar table in book by Boylestad, and next class onwards we will derive or see circuits for class A, class B, class C, D and EB, and the analysis will involve, first it will involve the circuit, second one would be what is its DC bias point, that third will be the equations for efficiency, and obviously we will also have some equations for power since it's a power amplifier. So once we are able to derive formulas, we should be able to design the amplifier. So that's it from my side for today. Thank you.